when I was going through kind of my banking career, that was nice. That was sexy. That had the nice title and that sort of thing. Ron Brooks, vice president, Ron Brooks, executive vice president. That looks good on business cards. People give you respect. People answer my phone calls. That's nice for them to go and kind of brag on with family and friends. Oh,
right.
Look what my son's doing, look at my son, they Google and they see me in different things. But that mindset of being able to switch and do my own thing with the purpose of serving others and kind of buying back my time so that I can spend doing the things that I really love, which is helping people, being with my wife, being with my kids. And in order to do that, I had to let those things go. Part of the mindset with this too, Summer, is I had to let it go because I had been reared so much in it that I drank the Kool-Aid as well for a while. I'm guilty of, I love what I worked for or felt I worked for in that limelight of being those things, those titles and things like that, right? And the respect that's garnered from that.
Summer Owens, and I'm back with another episode of So What Success Stories. And today I have the privilege of talking to my friend and fellow alum and a man with many, many titles and many hats, Champ Ron Brooks. And so we were talking earlier and I was like, okay, how can I introduce you? What's your title? And it's really literally way too many for me to list. And so I'm going to turn it over to him and let him tell you about some or all of the cool titles he has and the cool things that he is doing. It's honestly amazing. Go for it, Ron. Tell us about it.
I love that, Summer. I always love your energy. I always have. This is a great opportunity, so I really appreciate it. I guess that, to kind of sum up for me, I do what it takes to make things happen. And so I have several different businesses. For many that are familiar with me, coming from the University of Memphis, I was in banking for just over 17 years, and so a lot of people know me from my banking career. And then many other people know me from real estate as a real estate investor. So, currently one of the companies I have is Full Circle REI that I'm very proud of. And I've got a partner in the West Coast that we work at, and we help, people to be able to, transform from renting property to ultimately owning property. And I'm very proud of that, to be able to do that right here in what's been kind of my adopted hometown. Although I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, I've grown up right here in Memphis in the Orange Mound community prior to, kind of getting to the University of Memphis. So definitely excited to be here and look forward to pouring into your audience.
So he left out a few things. like those were cool, but our most recent encounter was when I was on his podcast.
That is correct.
So he is a podcaster. He has a very good, very, very strong, very established podcast called Minding Your Business.
Yes.
And where he interviews CEOs of companies, and I had the pleasure and the privilege to be a CEO on his show.
And that was a really good episode. I still get people that will watch that episode and inbox me about it.
Yay, that is
so
awesome.
It's really good.
Awesome.
And that was about a year ago, so that was great.
Oh wow, this time is going by so fast. So he left that one out. Author.
Yes.
He didn't say anything. Yeah, he's also an author, and I've read your book. It's a real estate investment book. You probably have some other ones. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, just two so far.
And it's awesome. And so, and I'm sure some other stuff that I've left out. I don't think he gave that title of husband and father.
Yes, I got those other titles as well. Yes, absolutely. Those are the more important titles, even beyond businesses. I've got the privilege and the honor of serving my wife as husband for now just over 14 years. We got married right here in Memphis, and I'll share that story here for you and your audience here shortly. And then I've got three beautiful daughters that we have together, and they're definitely a handful, but just the sweetest folks ever. And so I get that really great privilege, Summer, of being husband, father, and dad.
That's awesome. So those are a few of the titles, and probably he's like, oh yeah, there's another one. It's another one. So we'll see once we start talking. Once we start talking. But you truly are an inspirational person. You said you're a person who makes stuff happen, and I'm like, okay, since we connected on your podcast, and I've been following, I've been checking it. I'm like, what does he not do?
Right.
And you do it with that smile, and you make it look easy, and I absolutely love it. So we'll get into this. So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success System. And what I believe is that when people learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate their choices, they can have so what success. And so what success is success in spite of any challenges that you might face. And so, Ron, talk to us a little bit about the obstacles that you've had in your life and the obstacles that you've had to overcome to get to where you are today.
Yeah, you know what, Summer, I love that question, because for me, and just keeping it real with you and keeping it real with the audience, for me, it's mindset, believe it or not. When I was coming out of school, and I played a year, basketball at the University of Memphis, and was pretty plugged in there. But the mindset that you can achieve, that you can be great, and you don't have to have these limitations to what people believe that you could be. As sweet as my parents were, and my family, they had their limitations, right, on what you could be in life. I was coached to go through school, finish school, get this good job, and make this good money. But I saw more for me. But I had to get past that kind of box that was set for me. And one of the obstacles that I had, quite frankly, was sometimes people closest to me, Summer, who would not speak down on what I was looking to do, but they didn't understand why I would do something versus doing something else. So as a quick example, when I was going through kind of my banking career, that was nice, that was sexy, that had the nice title and that sort of thing. Ron Brooks, vice president, Ron Brooks, executive vice president. That looks good on business cards. People give you respect. People answer my phone calls. That's nice for them to go and kind of brag on with family and friends. Oh, right. What my son's doing, look at my son, they Google and they see me in different things. But that mindset of being able to switch and do my own thing with the purpose of serving others and kind of buying back my time so that I can spend doing the things that I really love, which is helping people, being with my wife, being with my kids. And in order to do that, I had to let those things go. Part of the mindset with this too, Summer, is I had to let it go because I had been reared so much in it that I drank the Kool-Aid as well for a while. I'm guilty of, I love what I worked for or felt I worked for in that limelight of being those things, those titles and things like that, right? And the respect that's garnered from that and the opportunities that come from that. And it took, me having that kind of stripped from me, because the end of my career wasn't me leaving it was it leaving me. Right now, it's not as easy to get people on the phone, right? It's when you're stripped from that title and things like that. And so that's what the energy kind of brought to me, that I had to do that. So my biggest obstacle through any of the things that I've been through was challenging that mindset. And once I got to a point, Summer, in 2018, now I'll go through the story later, but January 4th, 2018 at 3:45 p.m. was where my life changed, because at that time I sat in front of the CEO of a local financial institution. Won't say their name because they're not advertising on your show. Y'all want me to say the name? Y'all call Summer and y'all advertise on the show, send her a check, and then we'll say the name. So anyway, the CEO of that financial institution basically said, thanks, but no thanks. Here's your severance. And that was that. And I had to make a choice at that point, Summer. There was the voice in my head that was, go find another job, go bank job, you'll be fine. Nice salary, nice benefits. You need that. And then there's the calling of, what I really should be doing. And I went after the calling. That wasn't easy. Fortunately, I had the full support of my wife. So I give her all the credit for that, because I had the person closest to me that was my biggest cheerleader and biggest supporter, even in the face of the fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fear is what challenges that mindset, because when you're giving up 6-figure salary and 6-figure level benefits and all those type of things, and you're kind of going back to starting over a little bit, that can be challenging, and especially when you've got little ones.
So I'm going to ask you in a second a little bit about your choice, about that choice, because that's part of the Solo Success system. I was going to say though, so I get it. So I didn't get a severance package, and I didn't, nobody set me down, but it was the other way around. I set my company down and I said, I'm leaving.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
But before that, though, it was sort of the same thing that you experienced, because I had some prestige with my job too. I could kind of stick my chest out and, be really, really comfortable. People could brag like, yeah, that's where she works and that's what she's doing. And then I remember for probably the 2 years before I left, meeting with someone who was in a similar, she worked for another company, but she was in a similar place as me. We were both kind of doing our own things. And we had kind of what we described as the golden handcuffs. And I don't know, have you ever heard that term?
I have. And every time I hear it, I love that.
I do too, because we were both at that place where we had the title and the prestige and the salaries. And so it made it so much harder to go after our dreams and pursue our dreams. So I just wanted to share that, because I'm like, I get it. I totally get where you were. And so you were put at that place where you could have easily gone to another company. You
absolutely
were in a position where you could. And so we'll talk about that choice in a second. But the next part of the Solo Success system is about eliminating excuses. And so, hey, you grew up in a situation or like many of us, and you've experienced lots of things, I'm sure, throughout your life where you've had obstacles. You could have made excuses. You could have sat down. You could have done a number of different things. Talk about some of the excuses that maybe you made or that you could have made that have held you back, or that you said, I ain't letting it hold me back. Talk about excuses.
Yeah, I'll talk about both real quick, Summer. I love that as well. When you think about the very definition of an excuse, right? What is an excuse? An excuse is when you you attach blame to an endeavor to really defend it or to justify it. Right. Yep. So keep that definition in mind, and I know you've got your definition, as well. So times where I've made excuses, whether it's through my bank career or in my business. Well, because I'm a Black male, they're not going to let me do this, or I have to work this much harder to do that. That's not real. That's an excuse, right? That's not a reason. That's an excuse. Well, because, I've got kids in daycare and I've got a daycare expense, or, because, maybe, I'm not as good as this person. I don't have the followers. I don't have the prestige of this person or that person. Maybe I'm not as known as this, so it's always a lot of excuses come from this comparison piece. Right. And trust me, if there is an excuse to be made, I tried to make it. Right. I played ball, I had coaches that, why is this happening? Why are you not doing this? And I could always be prepared with an excuse. Right. And one of the things that, I learned is about the accountability. Right. And how, I control my destiny, not pointing at anybody else. And I learned that through athletics a lot, Summer. And then I learned it in my career was, I'm in control of my destiny. And, versus making excuses for things. Because again, you're trying to lessen the blame, right? That's what you're doing. It's a cowardly way of, trying to lessen the blame by pointing it and trying to attach it to something else that often is not legit or not real. Excuses I could have made. And I'm sure through your work experience, you could say the same thing. The bank let me go because I was Black. The bank let me go because they're just mean. They're just a bunch of white people that are just mean and they don't want me there. I can't, start my business right now because I've got this expense, or I've got to do this, or I've got to make time for, whatever it is that I wanted to put in my way, I could have done. Yep. Right. And in some cases, here's the thing about excuses. Some of them could be justified.
Exactly.
Think about coming out. I could have justified going to another bank, right? Someone could have said, well, Ron, I know you really want to, do your podcast full time. And I know you want to do, but dang, that bank's going to pay you $175 a year, plus, full benefit, and you get your title, and, everybody call you Mr. Brooks, which, I don't go, that's my dad, by the way. So anybody, if folk call me Mr. Brooks, I look around for him. Because he's at the University of Memphis too. Shout out to him. Ron Sr. He's the head of physical plant and planning at the university.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when people complain about the temperature in the buildings, you can go to him. Because we always mess with him with that. Even when I was in school, he was the director. But
wow, okay.
Yeah, so absolutely. So he got those complaints from students and faculty all the time.
That's so interesting.
But yeah, so the excuses, to your point, there are plenty to be made. I just determined, and this is why I share with your audiences. I just determined that I'm just going to go make it. So there's really nothing sexy to say about it or pull quotes from a book or anything. Summer, it's just decided I'm not going to make them, right? And instead of making the excuse, the time it takes for me to craft an excuse is the time I could have been going to do it anyway.
Figuring it out, right?
Come up with a solution anyway, right? Yeah. So I found that it takes a lot of effort to come up with an excuse and to stick with it and to repeat it to everybody, right? It's almost like a lie. You got to come up with it, right? You got to craft, you got to do all this jousting. You could have just told the truth, but instead, you got to craft all this stuff and all these layers. And then you got to remember who you told it to and what part of it you told it to. Okay, which excuse did I give, this person today, or which excuse did I give myself, which is the worst piece. And then I got to keep repeating that every day. That's just a lot of effort. It's like,
and you got to live in it. You got to live in the fact that you didn't move forward from it. That's heavy and that's weighty. And you probably don't even realize how heavy that is on you when you are living in the fact that you made that excuse.
Facts. Facts. All facts. Yeah. And so that's the thing. And we learned in athletics not to make excuses, but it's funny, when I got out of the athletic arena and you get into the workforce, everybody's making all these excuses, right? It's just full of, and no one made more excuses than bankers. Think about what happened in 2008, 2009. There was excuses galore.
Oh yeah.
Don't even get me started on that, because there's excuses galore on every reason why it's this and that, and we're not responsible for the downturn, and where that is, and people this and people that, and everybody keeps trying to craft excuses instead of looking for those solutions. And I found where I found success is when I've taken accountability for whether my mindset or things that I've done or said or whatnot, and look to grow from that. And that's personal and professional, whether it's, my relationship with my wife and kids, my family, or my business. Summer, it's, you have to eliminate excuses, from your vernacular.
Yeah, I love it. And I like how you also said a lot of excuses can be justified, right? Mm-hmm. So, and justified, completely understandable. And I always tie that back to my own life and my own situation when me getting pregnant when I was 15. I'm like, yeah, people understood if I didn't go to college.
Absolutely.
They would understood, like, yeah, that's hard and that's not fair. It's really kind of messed up how she got pregnant. I understand. Or if I was sitting at home with my mom still living with my grandmother, like, yeah, I understand. That was really messed up what happened. I understand. Well, guess what? While you over there understanding, I bet you weren't living my life. You aren't paying no bills. You're not making me feel I'm not happy. It's all kinds of things that come when we live in justified excuses, right?
Yeah.
When other people understand. So I like what you said. It's like, no, you just got to decide. I'm not going to make them. If I want to make it, then I got to get rid of excuses. So yes, I love it. I love it. Well, the next part of the So What Success System is calculating choices. And so you talked about choices. You started talking a little bit about choices earlier. Talk about that a little bit more. Some other choices that you've had to calculate in your life to get to where you are and do what you're doing. All the cool stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the beginning of great choices for me, and I don't want to sound sappy or anything like this, but when my wife and I got together, was that time, and we met at the University of Memphis. I know we'll talk some about that, but when we got married, we were 26 years old, and we were both. I was a little more established in kind of what I was doing in banking. She was more kind of finding her way. She was just starting pharmacy school, and one of the things I think this kind of set the tone for where I am today, Summer, is, you know, our support of each other through kind of these different phases in our life. You know, we're 40 today, right? And so we've come through this journey, right? Through the end of our 20s and through all of our 30s, and expanding our family, buying houses, selling houses, her finishing pharmacy school. But through that, we've had our ebbs and flows financially, right? And I want to share that because I think this will help your audience. Is when we got together, we got married, I was the sole breadwinner. She was in school, right? So as you know, with the pharmacy business, you can go from 0 to 100 real quick. There's not a whole lot. Whereas in my banking career, I had to rack up and kind of, get promoted and kind of work my way through the ranks. With pharmacy, once you get that license, you're there. So you go from 0 all the way up. And so she leapfrogged me financially, like that. I mean, after graduation, she passes the state exam summer and then off you go. But during that time when it was 0 and what I had, nothing changed in terms of, how we viewed ourselves and how we viewed money, right? Money's just a tool, right? And so we didn't run into all these different role type things that people are always arguing about. I see them on Clubhouse all the time. They're always arguing about.
Oh, I was 50, in a room yesterday and it was ugly.
Oh yeah, they get ugly on there sometimes. It could be comical and sad at the same time. But to your question of the making good choices is, when you make good choices in the people that you unite with, personally and professionally, it makes such a difference. And again, we're not above reproach, right? I mean, when you talk about mistakes and things like that, we've made them, right? We've come short, in our relationship, we've come short with each other and things in life and that sort of thing. But one of the things, when you choose to, like we were talking about earlier, not make excuses and own up to things in life and work actively to make them better. I've always said this: life rewards action. That's just the thing. Life rewards action. And something I live by when you talk about making choices is change the people or change the people.
Yep.
Right. So, you change, again, with your circle around you, and as you're looking to make choices, like we were talking about earlier about, sometimes it could be people that are relatives and that sort of thing. You look to change the people, and if not, change the people, right? And when you get to a point where you can make that type of choice, it sets the stage, Summer, I think, for so many things in the rest of people's lives. But I think a lot of people, they struggle with that choice, right? Sure. Because it's tough with people that are close to you. And let's just be real too. A lot of us have people around us that we rely on for certain things in our life, and they're very good at fulfilling those things, right? The aunt that will watch the kids,
right,
a lot cheaper than the daycare, right?
Real, yes,
right.
Yes.
But that aunt that also tell you why you starting that business, why don't you go down here to the 7-Eleven, and you know what I mean? And nothing against 7-Eleven, but if your goal is beyond that, you have a tough choice to make. But I think a lot of people struggle with that choice because I don't want to alienate auntie too much because I need her to help with this piece of my life. And so that's tough, I think, for people. But I think those choices are so critical. So, that was a beginning choice with, with setting my relationship with my wife that has catapulted the growth of my family, and someone that is an accountability partner also with me, with what I do personally and professionally. And there's no accountability partner like a wife. That's the ultimate accountability partner. You talking about giving excuses.
Somebody is feeling everything that you do.
Yeah, you talking about someone that's not going for any excuses. That word that's not even in her dictionary. That word she can't find it in her dictionary. Not coming from me.
I love it. Well, talk a little bit about what you were talking about earlier when you got that severance package and you had to make a decision at that point to pursue another job or to pursue your dream. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, like I said, at that time, it was just coming off the holidays. So my initial reaction was, okay, now this is the opportunity to to go forward, right? And what, I'd already started the podcast. I'd been doing real estate for some time, and now I could dive all in. But again, I still had that voice that was like, Ron, come on back, Ron. Here's such and such Bacon Trust, call it. Or here, I find myself on what I should be working on my business. I'm scoping LinkedIn, right? Oh, let me just see what's out there, because I just paid that bill. And, my goodness, yeah, I kind of need to. It'd be nice to have the funds coming every other Friday, like I've been used to, right?
No matter what you do.
Yeah, no matter what, right? Just for showing up. And so, I had the severance that gave me at least a short enough window, right, Summer, to before it really was going to turn up. It really was going to get lit. And so what I did specifically was I connected with mentors, that I have in my life and have in my life to this day. And, these were folks that kind of helped guide me, through understanding and respecting that voice that was pulling me back to banking. Because we could have sold the house and moved to another city, and, we could have waited for something here in Memphis, but, respecting that voice that was trying to pull me back, at the same time, feeding the other voice, right? And the other voice was pursuing what my calling was, which is to help people and be a resource to others with the things that I've learned and the things that I've experienced, and being able to impart that and share that with other people. That was really what my calling was. It was not to coach people on opening checking accounts. That's a great thing, or helping people with convenience get more convenience, right? And that's a lot of what I did at the bank, right? People who had convenience, helping them get more convenience, right? And that's not, I wasn't called here to do that, right? And so it was not easy at all. It was a simple process, but not easy because of that challenge. And the day that I knew I overcame that, I bought a property from an elderly lady in Ocala, Florida. And her and I developed a closeness during that process because she was going through some challenges that were somewhat unique to me, being a lot younger than her. But she's been to some places where I'm trying to go now in kind of her life. And she said, just keep going, right? Just keep going. You're doing the right thing. And I really appreciated that. And those are words that I just keep, kind of propelling and kind of moving forward. And so, that was it was a challenge time. It was a time, I wasn't expecting, I wasn't expecting that. I was coming right out of the holidays. We had come off a really good year, Summer. It wasn't like this was a non-performance thing. We were coming off a record 2017. I thought, man, 2018, we finna be lit. Like the way we was doing stuff, where I had these branches humming and all that type of thing. But life just showed me that, when you put all your stock into that, that can change, that can evolve. And, I had to get to, what my true calling was. No matter how much I enjoyed what I had, it just wasn't for me.
And I know you probably see it this way now anyway. It was a blessing, right? Because you probably never would have pursued your calling, or much longer time frame before you actually pursued your calling, but you were put in that position where you had to make a choice.
Yes.
Prior to that, you didn't have to.
Right. You're exactly right. The only thing, I didn't have to choose nothing. I got paid very well every other Friday.
Yep. So. You didn't, and that made the choice even harder. And so, so it's, I think about that, and I think about, when I was in that position and I made that choice. And I'm sure you're an entrepreneur, like I'm an entrepreneur. You talk about ebbs and flows in your relationship. It was probably ebbs and flows in your bank account that make you maybe even question that choice, and think about the unique and challenges that come with entrepreneurs. But it's that mindset that you talked about in the very beginning that helps you to continue to push through those challenging times, and to continue to do what you're doing. You're always educating other people, but you're always educating yourself too, and continuously learning and growing. And I'm a witness. I see it happening all the time. Okay, so when you're able to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices, which is what you have done many times in your life, and you just talked about a few, you can achieve so much success. And so you had some setbacks and you had some obstacles, and some challenging times, but you were successful. But tell me, what is your personal definition of success?
Wow.
How does it look to you now? Because I know
Yeah.
for me, it's evolved over time. How do you
Yeah.
define
Oh,
success?
it's definitely evolved over time. And, when you think about what that looked like, when we were all, a little bit younger, right. And kind of coming through the University of Memphis, coming through school, and what it looks like today. Wow. Geez, Summer. For me, when I define, success, it is the freedom the freedom to be me. Um, I learned fairly early on that I'm at my best when I'm just the best Ron Brooks that I could be, and I'm not trying to be or emulate anybody else. And we've been around, we've seen the advent of social media and how social media has kind of changed people's perception of success, because success is just a scroll away.
Right.
And and we see it with other people when we see other people doing things and living life and things like that. And it's easy to allow that to get into your psyche and start defining yourself and comparing yourself against what other people are doing, against other people's highlight reel. It's
Right.
kind of like watching sports on like a ESPN or something like that, and they're showing people's highlights. They're showing the best at what they're doing. And social media a lot of times can be that. And so,
Absolutely.
for me, it's that freedom to be. And that's what entrepreneurship ultimately was. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about how many awards I could get or how, many magazines or, it wasn't about any of those things, per se, Summer. It was really about, do I, can I sit here? Can I get up and have dominion over my day? And in my 17-year banking career, I didn't have that. Right. My
Sure.
day was dictated to me. Right. You're going to be at this meeting at 8:00. You're going to be here, because you're in this position. You need to be here. Right. Not because I wanted to, not because of what I'm contributing. And, as I define success and as I share it with my daughters, what success is. And it's that freedom to be them. And that freedom to as you choose the things that bring joy to you. Right. And not based on what other people define them as.
Yeah. I
And
love it. I love it. And
yeah, and
actually, that's my word too. And so it's funny you say that because that's my word too, is freedom. And I talk about how it evolved over time. It's probably the same for you too. So for me, honestly, it started with success as graduating from high school because it was such a challenge to do it, with a child and graduate from college. But then once I was there, it was like get that good job,
right,
being able to buy a nice car and buy a nice house. And it's so funny because I did achieve those things. So I did achieve success in that way. But now it's like, yeah, I want a nice car, a nice house, but that's not how I define success. It is the
right,
freedom. It's the freedom to buy one if I want to and not have one at all if I don't want one.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, so I have one last question for you.
Yeah, let's
So
do it.
you have been through, like you said, you talked about a number of things that you've experienced, and I am in awe of all the things that you do. I really, really am. Like I said, I watch and I respect it. I admire it. I had to talk to you about some real estate because I'm about to
Appreciate
get
it.
a little bit deeper into that than I am right now, which is why I bought
Yeah,
your book and enjoyed your book, by the way.
there you
Uh,
go.
but what advice, and I know you have a lot of advice, but what advice would you give to someone who wants to be successful, but they're running into obstacles? So it may be somebody like when we met back in college, or it might be somebody who is an entrepreneur like us.
Yeah,
But what's some general advice you would give to someone who wants to be successful?
yeah. I think that the first thing you use that word choice. I think what you do is you sit down and and if you're listening to this, practice this. Is just sit down in a room by yourself, put your phone down, turn off the TV, turn the news off, all the, dead all the noise that's around you. And if you just have to go into a room by yourself to do this, do this. And choose that you have a calling and that you're going to go for it. And I see this in real estate. People want to get into real estate. They want to get into different things. I'm sure you see it all the time, Summer, but they have to dead the noise around them, right? You have to gain a clarity. And when you spend time with yourself, which is a little unique, again, like we were talking about, we're always lit, right? There's always something engaging us these days, right? Very, it's difficult to have just silence or alone time, right? There's always there's always something pulling at you. There's always, mama calls, daddy, whoever it is, there's always something.
Or the draw to get on social media, right? And now with Clubhouse and those conversations, which is pros and cons to every bit of it, right?
Exactly.
But it makes what you're saying that much harder, but you have to be deliberate about it, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you have to be deliberate and intentional about make the choice that you're going to, whatever it is you want to go after. If you want to be in sports, right? Let's just say, you want to be in sports media, go after that. Doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what path you've taken before. It doesn't matter, right? Take the first step, right? Research, find out what that first step is and take that first step. You're not going to become whoever it is on ESPN that's making millions of dollars. You're not going to become that tomorrow, right? But each one of those people took that step, right? If you want to be like Summer and I, you want to be whatever it is that you want to do, you got to get into a place where you dead all the noise around yourself, and then you just go for it. And then you got to surround yourself with the right people. It always is curious to me when people say, well, I want to be a doctor. And then I say, well, how many doctors are you around? They say, well, none. Well, the first thing, if you want to be a doctor, doctors hang around doctors. When I became a banker, I hung around bankers, right? I hung around other bankers that were doing what I wanted to do, right? When I saw, the man that was the VP of the bank and all, I wanted to be around him. When I played basketball, I wanted to be around basketball players.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you got to be intentional about being around the people that are doing what you want to do. And we understand that concept when we want to do wrong and we want to do the opposite, be contrary. We understand that quite well, right? When we want to go hang out in the club, we don't hang around with nobody that ain't trying to go to the club. Nobody. Don't even call me. You know what I mean? When we want to go hang out and do different things.
So true.
You know what I mean? Nothing stops us. No excuse. Nothing. The dog, the cat, nothing. Mama, nothing. Nothing stops us when we want to go bad enough, right? Nothing.
That is so
you know
true.
what I mean? We find when we want to go do, things that's not in our best, favor all the time, right? Nothing wrong with going to the club, but when it's not in our best favor, nothing stops us, Summer.
But you know what's so interesting and cool about that too is we just talked about social media and how it can be a distraction and how it can also keep you from that quiet place that you need to get in. But it also can serve as what you said, you can get around people who are trying to do what you're doing. Yes. You can do that. You don't even have to physically be around them. Now you want to do that too, but you can get around, you can surround yourself with people who are doing positive things, who are trying to do things. It's easier than ever now, right?
Yes, it is. And when we talk about like Clubhouse, I've been able to not only make money from Clubhouse, but I've been able to connect, my business partner is on there. I've gotten her on there. Pauline's out in Southern California. Shout out to her. She's connected on there, kind of through me. And, I've met other people that I've been able to forge, like you say, relationships. I've got a call tomorrow with a real estate agent in Puerto Rico to talk about short-term rentals in Puerto Rico. I haven't stepped foot in Puerto Rico, Summer. I wouldn't know what, if I landed on it now, I wouldn't know what it looked like. And I'm getting ready to talk with someone about doing business down there who knows the whole market, everything. And so you're right. The positive pieces of things like social media allow for what I was saying, which is it allows us to be able to get into those circles. I think there are a lot of people using social media the right way, Summer, where they've been able to get around, even when they're not surrounded by people who have that evolved mindset yet. They're able to do that through a lot of these apps and things like that. And it saves them a lot of times from that circle that, again, it's just not as evolved. Not bad people, it's just not as evolved for where someone's trying to get to. So yeah, that's a great point.
Right. Well, I think that's great advice. Well, Ron, again, I just love what you're doing. I admire what you're doing. I respect you on so many levels. You're a fellow Tiger. That's big win right there. Didn't mention, look, you got to give a shout out to your frat.
Yeah, I got to give shout out to the frat, the mighty Tau Alpha Sigma, the alumni chapter of 1 Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Definitely shout out to the mighty men of Phi Beta Sigma all over the place in Memphis and around the world.
I interview a lot of people in the Greek community, and it's a whole other world in and of itself, and it's a beautiful network too. So I just want you to, I want you to give you that opportunity. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for your positive energy, your positive vibe, and hey, keep doing great things.
Yep, I appreciate that, Summer, and the respect is mutual. I mean, I've followed you and watched your endeavors over the years, and definitely you blessed our podcast. A little bit of time back with your story, and so I definitely appreciate you and what you're doing to make an impact. It's so widespread, and I think oftentimes you may not even know the impact that you have on others in such a positive manner. It's inspiring, again, for real, for many, if not all of us, with what you do. And so definitely I encourage you to keep doing it and keep having this platform. This is a tremendous platform, for all of us to get an opportunity to share, because we don't always get this, right? This opportunity. So you providing this opportunity to me is very appreciative.
Well, like I told you before, I absolutely love people's stories. And I think hearing other people's stories is what will change the world, because it's going to change everybody's lives. And I appreciate what you said about me and what I'm able to do. And I love being able to give other people a platform to be able to continue to share their stories. So thank you. Let's keep doing this thing.
Yep, absolutely. Let's keep doing it. That's all. Right, no excuses. We keep doing it.
Absolutely not. Thanks a lot, Ron.
Thanks, Summer.